What is motivation? What's in a name? In the past, they used to call it actually interest. The research into such phenomena used to be called research into interests. But afterwards, the motivation got more and more used as a word for this kind of intangible thing about what drives us forward, what's kind of important enough to make us make effort for it. Psychology is full of concepts, and in many cases they are kind of competing concepts, and so it can be a little bit cumbersome to kind of navigate what is kind of meant with the different concepts, and motivation is certainly one of those things. But I guess I should know about them because I am, in fact, a motivation researcher. But the context is very important, as in any, I think, field of inquiry, but especially when it comes to psychological research. So I do my research quite firmly regarding computer science students. Okay, so they form, let's say, 80% of my study participants. And so I wanted to make this short video to get us started with this cumbersome topic of interest and motivation. In fact, one of the fathers of self-determination theory, Mr. Richard Ryan, was just in Finland the other day, and what he described was basically the origins of their theory, which was about intrinsic motivation. And he actually kind of came up with I didn't come up with, but they had come up with a rather simple way to describe intrinsic motivation, which is where you can kind of ask yourself two questions. Is it interesting what we're doing? And does it create or bring enjoyment to us? So just these two words are perhaps what is needed to describe intrinsic motivation. Now, as I know from the past years of my research, it's been a long story, the creating of their theory. He used the word creating their theory brick by brick. But what he also meant by that was that they wanted to get the data right. Okay, so they wanted to accumulate the data to know that there is a foundation for their theory. And so it's a big theory consisting of many mini theories. So that's kind of the kind of worms, I guess, what some might say. If you if you really dig into a psychological phenomenon, you may end up kind of within this jungle of different concepts, but it's a different it's different thing to be kind of in a jungle. But if you're without a map there, but I think you need a map, and in research terms, you need to have a plan of what you're doing. You need to have operationalization of what you're doing. And that's something I didn't know when I started out. Or let's say I didn't know quite so well when I started out my research. But, you need to know what you're doing and how you're going to do it, okay? So now you begin to have like a framework for your research. And for me, so it was basically using the self-determination theory groundwork and the kind of basically the surveys and the theorization behind them. So I knew that there was this theoretical, tried and true backbone for my research, and from that I was able then to make these tweaks and adjustments, which I thought were necessary because computing context is, I think, different. I would even say it's quite exotic, but I know that in the field there's also differing opinions on that. But yeah, so that was the theoretical background. Has been this motivational theory background. On the other hand, I had been doing counseling before in my career. So I had come across this. This is quite a mundane thing, really, for many students in today's world to be struggling with their motivation and even pondering about dropping out and whatnot. So I had known, from my everyday working experience that people are worried about this very basic stuff going. How are they gonna progress in their studies? And you don't need theory for that. You know that it's there regardless of how you perceive it theoretically. But I think in the end you're gonna need to combine those two. You're gonna need to have the everyday experiences, but in order to make some sense out of it, research-wise, you're gonna need theory, or a theory at least. So yeah, but coming back to this theme of interest, so I think that what sums up intrinsic motivation is, I think, this very kind of childlike way that we can go about things. Hopefully, I mean, not everyone does, but hopefully we can do something that actually just feels right, okay, and feels good to be doing. It can be anything, it can be kind of collecting stamps, or maybe going fishing on a nice summer day, or going biking, enjoying a game of hockey, you name it. It doesn't matter but what it is, but what matters is that you're not doing it for any external reason, okay? But in self-determination theory, usually when you do surveying, you ask students, for instance, about their studies. So usually what the surveys do is they ask, what is the reason you are doing this thing A or B or C or whatever. But with intrinsic motivation, you can kind of say that it's that form of motivation that you need the least reasoning for, okay, at least the least external reasoning for. You just have that feeling within you, okay, so you can use these many words for it, this kind of inside or within yourself type of feeling. You can also use the word autonomous, but that's in the theory a more that's a broader concept that entails other things too. But yeah, so historically, you usually want to start with the explaining intrinsic motivation. That's the kind of logical step forward. But it's just that we're not always experiencing intrinsic motivation. That's also what Mr. Richard Ryan was explaining, that so that was a kind of also historically a way forward to acknowledge that oftentimes we do not experience intrinsic motivation. Rather, it's something else, but we still get the job done. Okay, so that would be a topic then for my next video. But for now, this is also a good way to explain my own papers, because right in my first paper, the weekly fluctuations in introductory programming, we actually looked into intrinsic motivation and the way it actually fluctuates in a CS1 course in quite an interesting way. But I'm going to be talking about that more in detail in my next video. Thank you.